And we are live.
The Fantasmagorium show presents Guns, Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns. Today we start the countdown to No Time to Die. I am Scotty and my counterpart is Catherine. Hey, Kat.
Hello, Scott.
What's going on, lady?
I've just been preparing for this show, debating whether I should try and marathon all the movies in 3 weeks like I did in February 2020, only to find out a few days later that
How many times have you seen Dr. No?
Probably a lot. It's the one I revisit most in the Connery era.
No, it's crazy. I did the same thing going up to No Time to Die the first time. What, it was supposed to come out in 2019?
Yes, original release date was November 7th, I believe, 2019. Then Valentine's Day 2020, then April 8th, 2020, and then they pushed it to April 10th, and then it got pushed to November 25th, and then they pushed it to April 2nd, and now October 8th, but who knows?
It's insane. And also, hey, we have things in the news, but we are doing the countdown now. It's supposed to be the 8th of October, 2021. No Time to Die is the 25th James Bond movie. Did they leave a hole in the box set for the 25th disc?
Oh, you mean for the Craig box set they put out last year? No, they did not.
They did not? So that you still have to have the extra... Oh, man. I'm checking out your box set.
Just like when they put out the new Indiana Jones box set, full knowing that there's going to be another movie.
Oh, well, packaging, it counts. So Craig has said it's going to be his final Bond film. It's directed by Corey Joji Fukunaga. From Carrie. Oh, I'm sorry. They list the middle name. With a screenplay by Neil Purvis and Robert Wade. Oh, Purvis and Wade. Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Fukunaga wrote as well. Added story. Oh, right, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Jeez. Yeah, you know, awesome. I should stop reading press releases like this cold. Leia Seydoux, Ben Whishaw, Naomi Harris, all return. Heavens. Jeffrey Wright is back. Christoph Waltz is back. Rory Kinnear. Heavens. Everyone is back. And Ralph Fiennes will come back as M. Rami Malek may be playing Dr. No. We don't know. Lashana Lynch as 007. Ana de Armas as Bond Girl. Dude, that's awesome. And the rest here on Gilligan's Isle coming this year. So, on a scale from 1 to 10, how jazzed are you? Wait for it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe coming this year.
Jazz. Back when they first did the marketing push, I was at like a 10. Yeah. But right now, because of the delays, I'm kind of indifferent as to whether it ends up coming out or not. So right now, I'm kind of jazzed at like a 6. It won't be. I'm at the point where until I'm literally sitting in the theater looking at the screen, when the gun barrel logo comes up, that's when I'll believe it, and that's when I can get hyped about it again.
Yes, absolutely. And also, you don't know that it's going to start off with a gun barrel logo. The Craig movies have played fast and loose with the gun barrel, but yeah, I will believe it when I see it as well. So, Steve, or may I call you M?
Either. I will respond
or you
to
are you
either.
Are you? Wait, no, I do like the shirt. You are Jack Wade.
I'll respond to that too.
It's amazing.
Just off the top, we have a couple of news stories. Obviously, since this is our first show, we're going to go back in time a little bit and grab a headline from several months back, which is Amazon purchases MGM for $8.4 billion. What will it do with it? Where is Amazon heading with the MGM deal? As mentioned above, the direct beneficiary of the acquisition is Prime Video, which is going to become the new home for MGM's vast catalog. While the movies and TV show library owned by MGM is impressive, Amazon will actually treat it as a gold mine for creating new content. The crown jewel, however, will be James Bond franchise. The Spy series is one of the most high-profile movie franchises in Hollywood, raking in billions of dollars over the past few decades. Even though MGM only partly owns it, Prime Video will get a major boost simply with the franchise's potential exclusive availability in its catalog. It is too early to predict whether Amazon can secure the rights to make spin-off content and milk more money from the spy series. But the prospect of exclusivity or exclusively hosting the next Bond film, No Time to Die, starring Daniel Craig, in his last outing as the iconic character will be a major move. So let me get your thoughts on this before we jump on to the next one. Kat, we'll let you go first. What was your overall impression of this deal?
I think they overpaid, considering that the bulk of MGM's golden years of film, where they won the vast majority of their Oscars, that's all still owned by TCM and Warner Brothers. And so they're only getting the latter half, where MGM kind of got more into putting out fewer films and trying to acquire, other independent releases for their studio. So it's an incredible amount of money. And when you look at all the press releases back in the summer when this happened, they kept emphasizing James Bond in particular. And it seemed almost like as if they're buying that type of IP. Like that was the only thing all the trades were focusing on, which I was kind of surprised by. Because Bond is very popular. It's still a bit niche in the United States. It doesn't actually make that much money here. It makes a lot more money overseas. And the people over at Eon, Barbara Broccoli, Michael Wilson have been adamant that it stay movies and not TV series. And Amazon since has put out a statement saying that they back the theatrical release of James Bond movies still, that they're not just going to make them, Prime exclusive, Prime movies, which is great to hear.
Yeah.
Remains to be seen once they have the complete takeover, if they'll continue putting them out on physical media as opposed to, we'll put them in theaters for a little while and then make them Prime exclusives. Because actually, No Time to Die is not under Amazon's umbrella because the deal still has to be finalized. It's going to take months. So technically, this is still in MGM and Universal's court because Universal is just handling international distribution rights. So we're probably not going to learn what Amazon's plans are, what kind of deal they're going to hash out with Eon for quite a long time.
Scotty?
I think it's funny that James Bond is owned by a Bond villain. I think it's hilarious. He's launching rockets into space. He has a weird laugh and he's bald. I think it's awesome. Sure, it makes sense that Amazon would want to acquire a movie studio, especially with Amazon Prime in terms of content creation. And who knows about the cinematic universe that he's going to put 007 in. Hey, remember when they were going to make the Jinx spinoff? Now, if it were owned by Amazon at the time, there would be 7 seasons of Jinx in a movie. So yeah, it makes absolute sense. And the mining of a Rocky TV show or any of the other MGM later years, recognizable IPs. But I think as long as they keep Bond going to theaters and as long as they keep releasing the physical media to take our money, then I'm fine with it. Doesn't bother me.
Great. So that kind of leads us into what happened today. This dropped today. James Bond, No Time to Die, box office prospects not looking profitable. Delay 2022? ? We'll see. James Bond movie No Time to Die's box office prospects are not looking profitable. According to a new report, will Daniel Craig's 007 finale be delayed into 2022? Having originally been set to release in October 2019, as Scotty said up top, Daniel Craig's 5th and final James Bond movie is currently set for a September 30 debut in the UK, and while US movie theaters are due to start screening the blockbuster a week later. But now a new report on No Time to Die's box office prospects claim that they are not looking profitable, and if the current release dates hold and go ahead. According to James Bond news website MI6HQ, No Time to Die is set to be the most expensive James Bond movie ever made. The last time the cost of the new 007 movie were publicly filed with Companies House in the UK, the total came to £214 million, having grown from £199.5 million due to interest charges. And a year later, that has since risen to around £226 million, which converted to US dollars is around $314 million for this movie. once advertising costs have been added, even at the lower end, it comes to a staggering $464 million is the amount of total revenue needed just for the film to be profitable. We've seen what happens to big tentpole films so far this year. They have not done well. They have not broken even. They're getting massacred pretty much in the theaters at the box office right now. So, Scotty, we'll start with you this time. What do you think of this news? First of all, do you think they can recoup their money with an a September 30th release of this year? And two, are they going to push this down the road into 2022?
I don't think that they'll push it down the road to 2022. I think that they will eat their losses. I think. Like, I'm just a guy in a tie. But Kat, doesn't it remind you of Harry Saltzman? This is how he got bought out of making James Bond movies. It was like, we need elephant shoes, hundreds of them. And it's like, oh my God, how can you? It's $314 million to make and 464 total production. That's insane amounts of money.
Yep.
Like, who are the real Bond villains? The producers.
Maybe.
Well, $30 million of that money is from the marketing for the aborted spring 2020 release, and then 17.4 million pounds was in all the funds that went towards the Danny Boyle production, which got aborted. And then they've been about $1 million of interest since the original delay. And because MGM would have to split with the theaters, with Universal, which has the lion's share of the distribution, and with Eon, then for MGM to turn a profit, it has to make upwards of $928 million, which is obviously not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because Bond has never been that. I mean, if you look at something like, Black Widow, which just came out, which has huge appeal in the United States for being Marvel, and it only turned 318 million in theaters plus the 60 million on Disney Plus. And it's like, there's no way Bond is going to get, anywhere near those numbers. And so the only thing which could potentially result in them not eating their hat on it is that Amazon, again, does not yet have complete control. And unless the people at MGM have any reason to doubt that the deal isn't going to go through, then they might just eat it and go for the release. If they think that there might be a rejection from Congress and it might not get approved, then they could kick it down the road. Because obviously Amazon could cover the cost. But of course, Universal is going to have a bigger say in that because they have the international distribution rights. And frankly, it seems like Universal hasn't been doing too badly in the pandemic. We haven't really heard much about them getting super worried. I mean, granted, they delayed their 9 movie over a year, and that movie looks, $626 million versus the budget on that. It's like, that's not really good either. So, we'll see. It's very much a toss-up. But I can say that all of the previous delays were announced at least 30 days prior to the scheduled release. So we should know by the end of the first week of September whether they're going to pull the plug or not.
Okay. Well, good. That's something to look at. Then that's something we'll keep an eye on moving forward.
And the UK release was also a week earlier.
Your mission should
wrong franchise.
Should you choose to accept it, is to continue this show.
All right.
I'm gonna pop out and let you guys do your thing. Have a great show. I've been looking forward to this show ever since we kind of came up with the idea. So I'll come back to go over the comments, but have a good show, and we'll see you soon.
Steve's such a great guy.
He is.
Oh, my stars. So next up, I think what we're going to do is absolutely going to be an agreement. I think that when we list our top 5 or top 6 James Bonds in order, I think they're going to completely coincide, and we'll have nothing negative to say.
Okay, you go first.
Okay, who do you want to start at the top, or you want to start at the bottom?
Let's start at the bottom. Makes it more dramatic.
It does. Let's count down to number 1. You know what? And it's a toss-up, but I think I'm going to go. Number 6 is going to be Lazenby.
We're in agreement on that.
Sorry?
I'm in agreement with you on that one.
Okay. Well, then we're in agreement. That's fantastic. Although I did have a proviso on that, is that the final shot of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I think he delivers that line perfectly. like that will have all the time in the world. Like she's just resting. I bawl at the end of a James Bond movie based on that line. So I will give him credit. I'm not saying he's the worst. I'm just saying he's last on the list. So then next up, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay. Next up is Craig. Are we in agreement?
No.
Okay. I like him. Again, number 5. He's not at the bottom. He's not at the top. But yeah, I think he's good as a physical brute force, but he doesn't have the same level of being able to pull off this. Like, he's not a well-dressed James Bond. It's the veneer of him being sophisticated that I was attracted to when I first got into the franchise, and I don't think he pulls that off. He looks like a bouncer in a suit. Who's your number 5?
Number 5. Well, I'm going to go over more in the bit in detail why I picked the way I picked.
Okay. Oh, do you want me just to do the whole list then?
Do the whole list.
Okay, sure. Okay, then I've got Roger Moore at number 4. I know that there are some people who are disappointed with me already. Wait till you hear who's number 1. It will shock you. I like Roger Moore, but I always found him cartoony, and whenever he tried to be not cartoony, like the Roger Moore movies are comedies to me, and so I accept them as such. Although even though Pierce Brosnan is my number 3, I think that Pierce Brosnan has the best James Bond hair. That is where it goes. I grew up with him, and I think the first James Bond movie that I ever saw in theaters was GoldenEye. So he's not my James Bond, but Pierce Brosnan was the James Bond that I grew up with. That I first teenage years James Bond. Then Connery. Connery is number 2. Because it is better to burn out than to fade away. And there is something I love. Diamonds Are Forever, but there's something about that middle-aged roly-poly James Bond that takes away all of the awesome of Dr. No, Goldfinger, From Russia with Love. There's something about seeing James Bond get old that I didn't like, and maybe that's why Roger Moore is so low on the list. And my number 1, and it's probably because he never got old, 2 James Bond movies under his belt. Timothy Dalton is my all-time favorite James Bond of all time. License to Kill is probably in my top 3, if not my top 2. And I thought that after View to a Kill, The Living Daylights blew my mind. So, yeah, that is my my top 6 James Bonds. And I didn't rate Barry Nelson. I haven't. Yeah. I don't think it counts. No Peter Sellers.
Yeah, or the other wannabe from that film. What's his name?
Woody Allen? We can't say Woody Allen.
No, the other guy, the one that Fletcher wanted.
David Niven?
Yes, that's the other guy from the Sellers film that he wanted. Yes. I'm like, okay, so my number 6 is also George Lazenby. I thought he was too young to play the role. I don't think he was a very good actor. I mean, he was, after all, just a model before then. He'd done a couple of commercials. Something about it just seemed off. It felt like he was trying to act like Bond. Like, I wasn't really absorbed by the role. It's like it felt like they were giving him extra amount of direction for it. I just wasn't buying it, especially when he does, literally breaks the fourth wall to make a joke that relating to like Connery era, and that just kind of drags it down more. And I think he might have been right that the director should have let him. He said he wanted to cry on the end of the movie, and the director said James Bond doesn't cry. Because I do disagree a bit on that final shot where he says we have all the time in the world, and maybe we'll get to that later when we review the movie more in depth. But I didn't buy him as much in that role. I thought I didn't really lament that he didn't come back like many other fans do. Number 5, Timothy Dalton. I know he's yes, I know he's by far the most accurate to the books. But something about him when when he does the tuxedo thing, when he's trying to be the suave Bond, I never bought him as that. It seemed like he was really uncomfortable in the suit, especially the fact that in both movies he's going undercover for an extended period of time, trying to really be somebody he's not. Like the opening of The Living Daylights, that feels like the kind of Bond that he is. Like he's rough and tumble, wants to, get in head on action guy. I never really bought him as much of a romantic lead or the guy who sits at the poker table and tries to charm the other guy. Then again, if his name wasn't Bond, if you got rid of all the Bond stuff and had him be a new character and had that be its own franchise, yeah, I think it would have been a great franchise. But I just never really bought him in that role. Number 4, Roger Moore, because yeah, you're right, it is a bit cartoony. Most of his movies are that way. Connery even opined that his films were more like Bond parody than they were like Bond movies. But he is kind of funny. He stays very consistent through his films. And yeah, he overstayed his welcome, and he even admitted that later on. But he still had that kind of gentleman type charm that he brings to the role, and he's trying to deal with what he's got there. Third, I give it to Pierce Brosnan. I don't think he ever got the perfect movie. Like from an acting standpoint, I thought in his first movie he felt really stiff, like he's showing up for the first job interview trying to give a good impression. The second one, I thought he was a bit looser. The third one, World Is Not Enough, I think was his best performance as the role. Very confident, kind of straddling the line between suave and debonair. And then the fourth one was just, a joke trying to be too parody onto itself. Second place, I give Daniel Craig. I agree that he's very much a guy who doesn't seem to enjoy as James Bond, the character himself doesn't seem to enjoy his life or the life that he's leading at all, but it felt very real. Like it's a much more three-dimensional type character. I feel like connect with him a lot more because he has actual human emotions and stuff, and it's not just like following the strict Bond formula. And I think that actually gets into the psyche of the character a bit more, which is why I really like that performance. But my favorite is Sean Connery. I agree that he did fade out towards the end, which is why his last two are the bottom of the barrel on my Bond list. But I really liked his performances in the first 4. You could tell he really enjoyed being Bond. He just totally embodied everything that character is, totally suave and confident all the way through. And I thought he was perfect in the role.
You like Thunderball?
Oh, I like the performances. That doesn't necessarily mean I say those films are absolute best. I do make it.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Just curious. So actually, that's not as far off as I thought we were going to be. Mm-hmm. We're good. So yeah. We disagree on 3. We're batting about 500.
Yeah.
That's not bad at all. That's good. We can have a conversation without getting catty. It's great. So there you have it. That's the list, I guess. Now we get to talk about Dr. No.
Yes.
1962's Dr. No. Oh, also, do you feel like we have to do some sort of a product of its time, like sort of disclaimer?
Well, I mean,
because there are things that I'm going to bring up that may be products of their time.
Well, yeah, it kind of goes without saying when you consider all of the the predecessors to James Bond, like the Charlie Chan stuff, and then the questionable things they're doing there, and Sam Spade. Even granted, Sam Spade is not a super spy, but the same type of idea, this formulaic type stuff, and you could see how some of it doesn't age as well, and they think certain things they did at the time they probably shouldn't have even done in 1962, but did anyway. So yeah, that's okay.
Well, but I just think you should be aware we're talking about a movie from 1962. There's a Jewish man who plays an Asian. There's some racism, I guess. I think it takes place in Jamaica, and so there's a little bit, but not much. But it's low-level 1962 popcorn movie for the general audience, although there have been some edits. And we'll get to that in a second. But 1962's Dr. No, there's your warning trigger. So, movie starts out. Dr. Strangways, the station chief of MI6 in Jamaica, is murdered by a trio of assassins. 3 blind mice, if you will. Now, Kat, before we even get into that, gun barrel sequence, first time.
Yep.
No James Bond theme with it. It's kind of like a weird doodly-doodly-doo.
Yeah, I kind of like that. It had this interesting retro type of feel.
Yeah, and it doesn't really get into it. And also, the guy in the gun barrel in the first James Bond movie, actually for the first 4, was a stuntman and not Sean Connery.
Correct.
And thank you. So and the production designer on that was the title designer for Maurice Binder, who we're going to be talking a lot about, because that dude does all like the silhouette stuff and the dancing and everything. Did the pinhole camera through the gun barrel. Amazing. Like this is off the hook for 1962 already. Yes. You get silhouette dancing girls, and there's so anyway, Strangways is hanging out for a bit. He has to go and make a phone call back to England because he's the section chief in Jamaica. He's murdered by 3 blind men, or they're claiming to be, and his secretary is as well. They get on the radio, and this is all based on a toppling of an American rocket.
Yeah, the Jupiter rocket from the Mercury space program.
Right. So that's what's happened. That is what kicks things off. And so we meet on the other side of the planet at night at a casino with Eunice Gayson as Sylvia Trench. How do you feel about Eunice Gayson as Sylvia Trench? The late, great Sylvia Trench.
Yeah, I thought she was great, especially since she's like, up until recently, Bond's only like actual living girlfriend.
True.
She does come back in the next movie.
Which I really liked, yeah.
And she kind of holds her own against him. She's not going to take any of his bullshit, which I like. Just kind of, and of course, the fact that even when they're at the table, she's kind of talking to him almost as if she doesn't know him. As if she's like just the dealer and he's just another guy at the table, even though of course they already do.
Yeah. No, and it's I found, first of all, she's a fox. And then you get this cool back and forth playing Baccarat, passing the shoe and Sweevy and all that jazz. And we get the introduction of Sean Connery as Ian Fleming's 007 James Bond in one of the most iconic introductions in film history. Like, can you think of another iconic introduction? The only one that popped to mind was like, I'm Batman. That was the only other one that I could think of that was as cool as James Bond. Like that. Yeah. I'm not even going to try and do the impression because I'm not going to do it justice.
Well, James Bond in that particular movie works because not only is it the camera angle, the appearance, as last year when people were posting their remembrances of Sean Connery, somebody posted a still image of him when he's first saying his name, and he wrote, "Nobody has ever looked that good at 32 ever." And it's like, yeah. And then the music, of course, kicks in at the same time. It's perfect. You can't top that.
Oh my stars! Oh, and the score. Oh my, who did the score? I have this. Monty Norman.
Yeah, Monty Norman. He actually did the original James Bond themes and all that, but it wasn't made famous till later by John Barry.
Right. Absolutely.
I actually do like the instruments that Monty Norman is using. You notice how the theme is the same, but it sounds distinctly different. And I also like that because they haven't really used it again for decades. And I wish they would kind of bring it back. It has that kind of old school feel to it. It's a bit, I mean, yeah, you'd have to clean it up a bit. It would sound like a lot better from audio quality wise, recording it in a modern studio. But it wasn't like the big giant orchestra that Barry was using, which is great, by the way. But I also like that different version that Monty Norman had. I wish we could hear that again. That's fantastic.
Well, did you ever listen to like the full soundtrack, like the songs and everything, which we'll get to when we get to Jamaica? But like, you've heard the whole soundtrack?
Yeah, I've heard the soundtrack. Yeah. Okay,
of course. So anyway, just so we don't go for fucking 4 hours on this, James Bond goes back to his apartment. Sylvia Trench is there. I think it's a euphemism. Oh, wait, no. No, James Bond gets called away. He has to go see M. And then that's where he gets the Walther, PPK from Major Boothroyd.
That was a great scene, too, because Bond is almost acting like a little kid who's having his favorite toy taken away when he's being forced to take the Walther. I'm like, this is great. And it's like, yeah, because it's like, okay, so he's becoming attached to his own gun. It's like another personal appendage, which tells you a lot more about him. But he tries to, sneak out with his old gun anyway, and then, Q stops him. But
well, and Bernard Lee is amazing, and like leave the Walther. But also the way they dress him down for carrying the Walther, it's like, yeah, it's nice and light for a lady's handbag. It's like, what, do you carry this in your purse, Bond? It's crazy. Just in terms of the insult.
Yeah, the Walther's the one they gave him in replacement of the other one. But the other one was the Beretta.
Oh, the Beretta, I'm sorry.
Beretta was the one that he had, and they're like, yeah, that's a lady's gun. You keep in a purse. That's not going to help you. So they gave him the Walther.
Right, my mistake.
Yeah, and then he goes out to, flirt with Moneypenny, which, by the way, was an addition in the film, so it wasn't really the nature of their relationship in the books. I think that's one of the best changes they made. It's a great thing, because it's like, oh, will they or won't they, or have they or haven't they? She's not going to take any of this crap either. Just going to keep dinging. Because, of course, he's a super spy. If he wanted to have a fling with Moneypenny, he could totally do it without his bosses finding out. But no, he doesn't really want to. That's kind of the cute nature of that back and forth.
Well, and yes, absolutely. And Lois Maxwell is fantastic, carried on the role for so long. Like, she's just, and also, like, maybe Moneypenny kind of aged with Roger Moore, but she was foxy too. Foxy ladies all over the place. And we got Sean Connery, and what do you think in terms of him, just his gait, in terms of his machismo? Like, the dude is just the dude's dude.
Yeah, it's exactly why he's on the number one on top of my list.
It makes sense. Totally makes sense. Yeah. And now that you mention it, Timothy Dalton is a bit chaste. So I do get it. Anyway, so Bond goes home, bangs Sylvia Trench, goes to Jamaica, and that's when he gets into the first real car chase action scene of the movie with Jones, who works for, we find out, Dr. No, and they are being chased by another car. We don't know who's in the car yet. It's like, okay, this guy is an international man of intrigue. Is this my car? And he uses a phone booth. Back in the day, you had to use coins and put them into a phone and call people then. They didn't have cell phones. So he calls and says, did anybody send a car? And they're like, no, we didn't think you wanted one. So anyway, this guy drives off with Bond, because Bond wants him to. They get chased by another couple dudes in a car, and then they turn off, and then there's a fist fight, and the overcranked camera is adorable.
Yeah, there's a few instances in this film, particularly when you're trying to do a car chase or something, where it looks like they sped up the film or something, like they drove off the road, and it's like, wait, what? It kind of it's this odd habit that they used to do back in the 60s for that type of stuff. Unless we forget the photographer who was shadowing him at the airport when he first arrived.
Yes. And that was Miss Jamaica.
Yes, it was. She was actually she was offered the Miss Tarot role in the film, but she thought it was too racy and said no and preferred to play the photographer.
I thought that was adorable, yeah.
Yeah, that was also adorable. And by the way, I love how Connery just totally confidently hijacks that guy's car while they're driving along. Yeah, no concern. Yeah, this guy's probably here to kill me, but I don't care. I'm just going to get in the back of his car. I know again, king of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's it is a representation of just how to be cool. And, oh, yeah, it's exuding confidence through the screen from the past. It's amazing. So, anywho. I got to plow through this plot, man. I
looked it all up, so I can remember the whole plot from here on out. Or we can just keep going if you want.
Well, no, please, you go. Go for it.
So he kills the guy. He takes his car. The guy kills himself with the cyanide pill. He takes his car. He goes to this head section there in Jamaica. They find out that, okay, he actually was associated with Strangways. They find out that Strangways have been examining these rocks that he'd gotten at Crab Key, and they say, yeah, he took him to this local Professor Dent. You should probably go see him. And what was in Bond asked, what's he really looking at? Oh, it's Crab Key, but all of the files mysteriously went missing overnight. Bond, of course, goes to investigate the crime scene, which is one of the things I really love about this movie, is that you actually see Bond being a spy. He's like being a detective. He's trying to solve the case. He's not just smashing in and just, I'm just going to, strong arm some guy the minute I come in if I want a question. No, he's going to be suave. He's going to be cool about it. And it trusts the character and the strength of the character to carry at least the first half of the movie. And I wish more
absolutely
that nowadays. Like, because many of them, again, and get written around action scenes later on. But I love about this movie is he is a detective going through it. So he goes to meet Professor Dent.
Hang on. So I thought it was really funny because when he goes to Strangway's place and there's the blood patch from the secretary, he goes up to the radio and it's like, oh no, and the signal will be turned off. But he has a pen to pick something up and then he just puts his hands right on it. And I'm like, dude, what's the pen for? Anyway, that was the second. There's a point in that scene where there is the second audio edit that I am aware of for Dr. No. The first one was when Bernard Lee, as M, says that he was like since he became the section chief of MI7, and they edited that to make it into MI6. Now with this one, when referring to a picture of Strangways and Quarrel, it used to say who's the boy with Strangways, and they did re-edit that for the racial, insensitive, the racism, which it's not in like the IMDb thing, but it's just like, I remember as a kid, he said that and I was like, but that's a man. And then as I got older, I understood the reference. And I was like, yeah, I get why they edited that out. So what I watched today was the Dr. No special edition.
Yes. So anyway, Bond goes to see Professor Dent and asks him about what Strangways is doing. And Dent, gaslights him. He says, oh, those rocks didn't come from Crab Key. They're not radioactive. They're perfectly normal. They part on cordial terms. But then, of course, Professor Dent races off to Crab Key, goes inside the bauxite mine, which is on the outside, which is kind of the disguise. He goes into this really neat, uniquely designed room, which I can't for the life of me figure out the practicality of the design, but it looks so interesting.
It looks awesome.
Yes, and which a ceiling and a set, which by the way you see in the No Time to Die trailer. Anyway,
true story.
So you hear a disembodied voice, of course, Dr. No, tasking him with killing James Bond, and he gives him a tarantula, which aren't poisonous or venomous, but okay, we'll take it. So Bond, meanwhile, goes back. Bond goes back to follow up further leads. He's told that Strangways, the guy named Quarrel. He goes down there and meets Mr. Quarrel because he would have been the one who would have taken Strangways to Crab Key. And Quarrel kind of gaslights Bond as well. I don't know you, blah blah blah. He lures him into the back of this bar, and they start beating him up with his cohorts. But then they find out that it's actually he's MI6, and then the other guy's Felix. Oh, cool. They're all friends. They make up. They go to dinner, and the photographer lady shows up again.
Wait, you're not even gonna say the name Pussfella?
Pussfella, Horsefella, yeah. I think it was Horsefella, wasn't it?
No, I thought it was Pussfella.
I'd have to double check. So anyway,
it doesn't matter. You don't struggle. He wrestles alligators.
Yeah, and so they're kind of manhandling her, and she refuses to say who she's working for. Blah blah blah. And they destroy her camera. And so Bond asks, "Well, what's these people so afraid of?" It's like one person commits suicide, the other would rather have me break her arm right here in the bar.
Oh yeah.
And Felix is like, "Well, it's this guy at Crab Key. His name's Dr. No."
Oh, and also now that you mentioned Felix, we got to talk about Jack Lord. Jack Lord being the first Felix Leiter, like amazing. And that was those who were trying to keep up. Those were it was Quarrel and Felix Leiter who were in the car who were chasing after the guy. Anyway, moving on.
Yes. So it's like, okay, so Bond finds out the guy's name is Dr. No. He goes back to his hotel room, and he had set a little trap with a wire to see if anybody had snuck in. He notices the trap has been sprung, but he checks the room. He doesn't see anything odd. He goes to bed. The tarantula comes. Bond kills it. And next day he decides, okay, we've got to go out to Crab Key. Quarrel is really scared because he talks about this dragon. And I'm thinking, even as an 8-year-old, I saw this movie coincidentally 25 years ago this season, actually. And even as an 8-year-old, I was thinking, I know this isn't an actual dragon. I'm smart enough to know that. But
me
Quarrel,
too.
He refers to Quarrel as a boy. Quarrel's superstitious. Oh, it's a dragon. And I'm like, this is a little weird. And so when they get to Crab Key and you meet Honey Rider, and she believes the same thing, and I thought, I'm sorry, everybody goes on about, of course, the iconic shot when she's walking on the beach. I don't know. I think the bikini she's wearing looks really plain and not that interesting. But
yeah, but for 1962, it's sexy as AF.
That's true. But she always struck me as a bit ditzy. She's like, don't come and steal my shells. Oh, the gunmen in the motorboat are coming to steal my shells. It's like, no, lady, they don't give a damn about your shells.
All right. We're coming back with the dogs.
Yeah, they're coming back with the dogs. And, a great iconic scene and all that. But this is where the movie goes downhill a bit for me, because it kind of slows down, and it's just Bond and these people. Because in the book, Bond and Coral have a really great friendship, and which is downplayed completely. Like, you could see that he's very much his, assistant in this. I completely forgot the scene where Bond goes to see Miss Tarot and the three blind mice try and kill him, and he runs them off the road. That was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
Right, now Miss Tarot was completely surprised to see Bond show up because she thought the three blind mice would run him off the road. And that, of course, further speaks to Bond's how cool he is. Of course, he knew that she's the one who set him up, but he comes in and just puts on the whole charm, and she's just totally bewildered and all that. And that's another instance the movie does this weird thing where they're trying to sell you on the idea that Miss Tarot's like Asian, but she's not. It's just, white chick.
Yeah, that was a Caucasian lady, yes.
And you have arguably one of the coolest moments in the movie when Professor Dent shows up to try and kill him, because Bond arranges for Tarot to be arrested. And he's like, he listens to what Professor Dent has to say at gunpoint. He's like, sorry, Professor, time's up, and you've had your sixth.
Yeah, because...
Right, because he goes in the room and he shoots the bed an excessive amount of times because Bond had stuffed all the pillows in there to make him think it was him. And
also in that scene, that's where I learned that people could light cigarettes off of other cigarettes. I had no idea you could do that until I saw this movie.
Yes, and that was a great bit too. It's like, some people thought it was too cold-blooded compared to the Bond of the book. I'm like, no, this is exactly what this movie needs. Because he's putting on the charm so much, kind of floating through it. It's like, we need to see how vicious this guy can be. He's going to get the job done, and he does. And that was awesome. So yeah, then they go to Crab Key, as I mentioned. They go in search of the dragon. They're hiding out from the dogs because they do. The goons did make good on the threat to come back with the dogs. You see the big beware signs and all that. And
they cut the reeds and go under the water, and they're like, that was cool.
Yeah, it was kind of clever. So the dragon shows up, and sure enough, it's a tank that's been painted with a flamethrower. Coral has a particularly vicious death. It's miraculous that Bond and Honey Rider didn't get burned as well, because they were like literally right behind him in the other bush. So they get arrested. They get brought to Dr. No's secret compound. They get detoxed.
Yeah, decontaminated from the radiation that is around. Yes,
right. And I noticed how Honey Rider seems to be like really enjoying that scene. Almost like she's taking a shower and all that, and Bond is being very guarded. It's like he's cooperating with it, but he can tell, okay, we might be in trouble here. And the thing I never really got is they're presumably locked in the room they put him in, that like bedroom suite or whatever, but they feel the need to drug him with the tea anyway. It's like, okay, you couldn't just leave him there? I guess not. And of course you see the silhouette of Dr. No as he comes in for some reason to kind of look at them. To emphasize them in.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And then
I think that's artistic license to create the threat and just like, why is this going on? But now when you do put a closer examination upon it, that doesn't make a lick of sense. Yeah,
it doesn't. So then of course we go in to see arguably one of Ken Adams' greatest achievements. It's Dr. No's Lair. And it just awesome. They even got the Goya painting in there, which was stolen at the time, to just play up the idea that he's a real badass. And he's using like a giant magnifying type glass to make his minnows look like giant fish, and Bond makes a quip about it. And talk about Joseph Wiseman. He's just the epitome of class and setting the standard for what should come in the rest of the franchise. Even when he's very like ramrod straight, keeps his hand beside him. And he's like, okay, we're going to come to dinner now. He sits down at the table and he tells them the whole story about how he was born in China, ripped off a Chinese tong of $10 million, ended up working for Spectre, the Special Executive for Counterterrorism, Revenge, and Extortion. And the reason he's apparently putting up with telling Bond all of this isn't because he's dumb like Dr. Evil, who won't just kill Bond, but because he actually wants to recruit him to the cause. But Bond's like, not interested. And he's like, okay, it seems I misjudged you. You were just a stupid policeman.
That is an awesome line delivered perfectly. Yeah.
And in another scene, another reason why I didn't care for the Honey Rider character, throughout this entire scene, I completely forgot she's at the dinner table. Because the camera never cuts to her. She never says anything. It's not until
I noticed sometimes that it was just basically her looking furtively to the right sometimes. And that was it until Bond is like, get the girl out of here. And then she's like, no.
Oh, we don't need the girl for this. And you're right. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is I can see what this Honey Rider character is really here for, because she doesn't really provide anything to the film. And if you look closely, you'll notice that one of the goons there beats up Bond when Dr. No leaves, will make a reappearance in The Spy Who Loved Me as the
oh wow, Jesus, that's a deep cut. I did not know.
The ball jet that Bond pushes off the rooftop in Egypt in The Spy Who Loved Me is the same guy standing next to him in Dr. No's lair at the dinner table, who ends up starting to beat him up. And of course, the plot of what Dr. No is essentially doing is he's sabotaging the Mercury program for NASA's rockets on behalf of Spectre, which is probably doing it on behalf of the Soviet Union. I'm assuming, they never say. And then we get to another weird part in the film, which is, I thought this segment goes on a little long, where Bond breaks out of his cell. He's going through the vents. The water turns on because it's the coolant for the reactor. And I'm thinking, well, if the water's flushing all the way through here, shouldn't his cell have been flooding? That maybe.
Well, no, because he fell down. He fell down a chute to get to that part. Then the water comes over him. So I think it was two different levels.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, so then he ends up finding this goon. He takes his suit. He goes inside, and Dr. No runs a test. And then they're counting down to when they're about the top of the latest rocket that's about to launch. And Bond, of course, messes with the controls. All hell breaks loose. Everybody's running because the reactor's about to melt down. Dr. No, in a very odd way, he starts, even when he runs to catch up with Bond, he keeps his hands like at his side, and he's moving, shuffling like this when he's running, which looks a little weird. So they get up there, they have their big fight, and then because of Dr. No's metal hands, which are the beginning of the gimmicks that the villain should have, he can't grasp onto the platform as he's thinking, and gets boiled alive in the nuclear.
The irony.
Yes. And so Bond goes and rescues Honey Rider. They escape, and because Bond just decided, screw them, he takes the two guys who are in the boat and he just punches them out so he can have the boat to himself. The Dr. No's explodes. Felix Leiter shows up in a boat, presumably with the rest of the Navy nearby. It throws Bond a tow rope, but classic Bond, he's like, nah, I'd rather be stranded out here in the middle of the ocean with her, without any oars, without a motor. We'll be fine. And then you have, of course, the line which would follow many Bond films, James Bond will return. And I think that, Dr. No is definitely my favorite villains. It's just that because Coral and Honey Rider are a bit ditzy and she doesn't really add much to the movie, I just thought the second half was a little bit slower than it needed to be. It's like, get going a little bit, but I still really love this movie because, again, he's being a spy and actually trying to solve the case most of the time. It's not built around, we need an action beat here or an action beat here or some romantic beat here. Everything feels kind of natural within the story. That's why I rank it really pretty high on my list.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my most rewatched movies in the Bond series. I love the soundtrack. I love the locations. I don't find it gets as slow I really love Quarrel. I think that Honey Rider is an endearing character. I have not read the novel, so I don't know the depth of the relationship between Quarrel and Bond, although I do know that Quarrel 2 shows up. Quarrel Jr. Does show up later on in the series, and so there is sort of an inference in terms of their friendships, and even he threatens Dr. No by saying the first thing that I will do, like I would like to be part of the revenge, but the first people I'm going to take revenge on are the ones who killed Strangways and Quarrel, and so there is a sense of that, and yeah, Quarrel is treated sort of silly for being afraid of the truck, but I like Quarrel a lot. I wish Quarrel had lived and could come back for another movie. It would have been it would have been great. And the only problem is that they probably would have recast him. Felix doesn't even get to come back for another movie, and it's Jack Lord. The fashion. You're right. The drugging them, the damned coffee. Drugging them doesn't do anything. The sets are incredible. I actually heard that they for the stock footage of the fish in Dr. No's dining room, it's because they had the stock footage of fish, but it was of close-ups, so they had to write it on the fly on the day and say, I designed it myself. It's a magnifying lens, and it's like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, no, that makes sense now. But the production design by Ken Adam is fantastic. It's definitely iconic. And yes, that scene collecting the tarantula, that doesn't make any sense in terms of the layout of the room. And then the actual battle with the tarantula, I always thought, because apparently, and you know this, I'm just sort of saying this for everybody else, and I'm excited about it, is that when they had the tarantula going up his arm and he had the plate glass on his arm, on Connery's arm, because Connery didn't like pretty much animals, sharks and tarantulas. He was averse to. But I always thought when I saw it when I was a kid and it was on TV and stuff, I thought that was his muscles tensing. And I was like, damn, he is scared. I didn't realize it was glass rubbing up against him. So, yeah. And also the beating with the shoe, come on. That was amazing with those blasts of the horns. I loved it.
Yeah. And I think the setting of the Jamaican setting really helps the movie too. It's like,
yeah.
Send Bond to his home, you know?
Yeah. Well, and again, just saying it because it's exciting. That's where GoldenEye was in terms of Ian Fleming's home, or his Jamaican home. So that's. What about the part where he secures his room with the talc of the thing with the hair over the closet, just showing that he's a capable character who's going to do all these things and he knows what he's doing. He's done them before. Checks him when he gets back. He even has an extra bottle of vodka for the love of Pete.
Exactly. All of that I love. It's like, okay, he's capable, he's confident, he's ruthless, and the film trusts the character enough that they don't feel to get too insane or crazy with it, and just let the character carry the movie.
Absolutely. So do you want to give it a ranking? Do you want to give it like on a grade school level? We don't have to put these unless you want to. We can start.
I mean, we can give them ratings if you want. I give this movie an 8.5, about 8.5, because again, I thought it went a little bit slower in the second half. I wasn't endeared with the Honey Rider character, but I love that it's very much character driven for him. It goes all the way through, and I admit parts of the climax they could have emphasized more what the actual threat of the Mercury program being sabotaged would actually be. It's like they mentioned, oh yeah, the American rockets, they're kind of tumbling. It's like, and
yeah.
What the hell? I'll give it a solid 9. I love it enough, and I revisit it more than the other Connery movies, so that should count. But yeah,
yeah, I would probably give it. I'm gonna give Dr. No a 9. I'm gonna go 9 just because even the flaws. You know what I saw today? I saw a boom mic today in one of the scenes, and I was like, "Oh damn!" I've never seen a production design or a production gaff in a Bond movie before. It was really, really fun. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9. I watch it the most after I wore out Goldfinger. Yeah. Hey, Steve.
2 solid 9s.
Yep, 2 solid 9.
2 solid 9s. Okay. See,
9 martinis.
Disagree.
All right.
9 martinis out of 14.
Shall we jump over? Should we jump over and take some chat?
Yeah,
let's.
Awesome. All right.
How are you, chat? Good to see you guys and girls and people of any other. I don't care. Sorry.
All right.
Edge of Time says Moore is the best Bond based on the books. Then Connery, Brosnan, Lazenby, Dalton, and Craig doesn't even count as a Bond. Dalton is, and I always thought that Dalton was more like the books.
Yeah.
Anyway, Edge of Time, you're not wrong.
He said the rest have resemblance.
Yeah.
Now, does he mean resemblance in terms of their physical appearance or just in terms of their attitudes and such? Because, yeah, you can see that, again, the Craig Bond is a bit more of a depressed type of guy rather than the super confident debonair type guy. So I guess, yeah, you can kind of say that. Neither does Bondita, Edge of Time also says.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that book. Bunyan Snipe. Hey, buddy. I managed to stay up a bit longer. Well, thank you for joining us, sir. Edge of Time says, I see nothing. Sergeant Schultz. I do enjoy. Well, I see nothing. Heavens. Hey, the Richard's here. Hey, guys. Hey, man. I hope you're feeling well. Bunyan Snipe says, I have a feeling there will be an MGM channel rather than a free to Prime subscribers. Possibly. Oh, like MGM Plus?
Perhaps. I mean, I know that they already got Amazon already has the first 20 Bond films in 4K, and have had them for 6 years now. But they could always.
I think it's just going to hold into Prime.
Possibly, yeah. The Richard says, wow, look at Scotty looking sharp, bud. Thanks, man. I wore my good glasses. And aloha to Steve, Kat, et moi. No, Doc. Why are you awake? I don't know, but I appreciate that you're listening / watching. Hey, Tony, I agree. I love it when you guys agree. Bunyan Snipe says, will Bezos get his volcano lair now? He's going to have a moon volcano is what he's planning.
Working on it.
Find one of those old, nuclear test site craters and build a base there.
Hey, Todd Michael. Hola. How are you, sir? Bunyan Snipe says, hello to Todd Michael. It's nice to see you guys. Glad you all could make it. The Richard says, I'm telling you now, this episode is when Scotty's star is born. I didn't even know I got a star pregnant. The Edge of Time says, had to reboot to see. Oh, well, I hope the reboot went well. Yep. Todd Michaels says, little known fact, the Rocky Horror Picture Show is the only Rocky film without Sylvester Stallone in it. That is no Rocky and Bullwinkle. He wasn't in Rocky and Bullwinkle. Mm-hmm. Todd Michael says, greetings, Mr. Snipe. And
everybody
says,
kind of
everyone's just so happy.
Everybody's
awesome.
Oh, Bunyan Snipe says, if the cinema industry survives to 2022, it'll make money. And same with the rest of us, pal.
I don't know. That's a big number to climb. It's a big haul.
I don't know. Like a long term.
Well, if he means that if it survives, as in if cinemas are still around in 2022, when hopefully we're a bit further past the point where we are now, then it would be more successful potentially if they released it then. Who knows?
And it might be.
And El Ricardo. Edge of Time says it will tank no matter when they release it. They sold it as woke and thus broke.
I don't know.
No, there's nothing remotely woke about it. The Bond franchise, go back and watch it. There's been plenty of strong female characters. There were plenty of people across the board. Just because they're having her be a 00 agent, which isn't the first time they've alluded to that. They've alluded to that in Thunderball. They just didn't have them as actual characters. And they're giving the number, but as the official premise states, he's been retired for 5 years. They're going to give the number to somebody. And they've been selling us on the idea that the name and the number are inseparable. So the fact that they're doing that, I'm sure, is going to have some type of a point in the movie, because they've been saying that, as a lot of pundits have been saying, is Bond even relevant in the 21st century? And that sounds like a theme they're going to address in this movie. As Phoebe Waller-Bridge said, yes, absolutely, he's still relevant, and we're going to show that. And I think that's probably where they're going with this idea of her being 007. I imagine he'll get the number back at some point during the movie. But the idea that it's automatically woke just because you have a black 00 agent, it's like, come on, get real.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either.
Well, I haven't seen the movie yet, so it could be. I haven't seen the movie yet.
Could be.
I don't know. But also at the end of each film, as Kat so finally pointed out, it says James Bond will return at the end of the movie. So it doesn't really matter what happens. It's not that Lashana Lynch is going to be James Bond. She's being 007. I don't know. We're going to have to check out the flick and see what happens. It could be dramatic. The Richard says, Kat is the not so secret weapon here. Dude, Kat, you've been carrying this show. Thank you so much. Yeah. It's great to see here in the upper left.
Yep.
Bunyan Snipe says, Scaramanga lives on an island. He does. Scaramanga does live on an island. That fight on the beach was great, too.
Yes.
There are so many fights on beaches. His suits don't fit. Which one? I say Daniel Craig's suits don't fit. Bunyan Snipe says, Lewis Collins is the great lost Bond. Cubby thought he was too thuggish. I'm not familiar. Kat, are you familiar with Lewis Collins?
Yes, they went through quite a few different people they were looking for before they eventually cast Connery, and they were kind of basing some of their decisions not on so much their acting ability, but if they kind of looked to the part, because even Connery didn't really have a big acting career prior to Dr. No. He was only 31 when they filmed the movie, which it's like, wow. And they were looking at other, more accomplished actors at the time who were older, and they were judging a lot. Like, do you really feel like you can, walk the walk and, talk the talk, so to speak? And they dismissed a lot of different actors based on what would seemingly be very superficial kind of things, even though it isn't necessarily superficial, because you want Bond to carry that level of confidence and debonair, which Connery had it.
Mm-hmm. Dalton feels like a killer. I think Dalton does feel like a killer. Yes.
100%.
Oh, Niven.
couldn't think of the name earlier. Yes.
David Niven.
Todd Michael says, okay, way too late for me. Have a good show, Cat and Scott. Thank you. Thank you so much, Todd Michael. Later. Bunyan Snipe with a smiley face. Thank you, sir. Lewis Collins. I will have to check. Yeah. I haven't seen his physicality. Hey, Steve, were you in the chat?
I was. But
Lewis Collins.
It's never too. We can never say tip and comment too many times, right?
This is true. Like, subscribe, share. Thank you.
Do all
comment,
the stuff,
the sharing. Please. Do all the things. Ring the bells.
Yeah, ring the bells.
Phantasmagoriumshow.com/shop. Bunyan Snipe. Lewis Collins passed the SAS induction tests, but his fame made him too problematic to join. Well, it was fine for Elvis. Gundle Wintelbaum, Thunderball. My Thunderballs have a license to thrill. Yes, they do. Edge of Time, love Thunderball. It was the first one I couldn't shake as a kid. I used to draw crayon pictures of it. Well, and that's why we're all here, is just like being inspired by it. I found the underwater stuff a little boring. Jack Lord, hell yeah.
I always wanted a Disco Volante. That's awesome.
The Disco Volante is a cool boat, yeah. Mountain of the Cannibal God? Is that where Bezos is going to live?
Maybe.
Dr. No is an awkward place to enter the series. Not really.
Well, they picked it because it was going to be the cheapest to produce. Because it pretty much all takes place in one location. It's very not the big. It's not like a big action movie, and they needed to prove that this is going to work, so they picked that one. They were going to start with Thunderball, but then the whole Kevin McClory thing. We could talk about that some other time. But then they opted to go with Dr. No instead, which was the 7th novel.
How exactly do Julius No's hands work? I haven't the slightest idea.
That's a good.
I was really impressed when he crushed that dragon metal thing to show off the strength of his hands, but it always confused me as to how exactly they worked.
That's another odd thing. If he can grab that thing and squeeze it, he should be able to grab onto the bars when he's sliding. Whatever.
But I think it was because his hands were wet, and it was wet metal on metal. That's what I always took it as. Gundle says, right on at Edge. Thunderball was my first Bond I watched, and strangely enough, one of the biggest box office earners, if adjusted for inflation, of all time. True. That is true. That's why they kept making them annually.
I don't agree with adjusted for inflation, because it's one variation out of hundreds of variations that you can use. So I really don't like when people use that. Oh, adjusted for inflation. Well, did you adjust for this fact? There's 100 different variations you could adjust for. Why are we just picking one instead of the 100 other ones that actually directly tie into the film's box office as well? So there's a bunch of things you can do.
Well, I think because when it comes to adjusting for inflation, if you looked at the actual individual ticket prices in terms of what the averages would have been per country.
No, I get that. I completely understand why they do that, but that's just one metric in 100 different metrics that directly affect the box office. With the advent of the internet, with the advent of gaming, with the advent of all kinds of things, there's variations that pull away from people going to the movies. So to use that one metric and not all the metrics, it doesn't really work for me.
I never thought about it that way.
It's just a bone of contention for me.
One thing you could do instead of keeping track of box office for the numbers would be keep a track of how many tickets they actually sell, because the tickets is something that doesn't change. The amount of tickets you're changing is going to be a constant number. And certain European markets actually do that But yeah, I'm sure that information is somewhere. We could probably find it.
But that doesn't take away, Gundle. It doesn't take away from your amazing observation. It's a nitpick for me. It's a little picadillo that I have to address every time I see it.
No, absolutely. And when you talk about people going to the theater and how much a movie makes, like what is keeping people away from the theaters in a modern world as opposed to what was happening in 1960.
Sure. Hey,
Kat, what year was Thunderball released?
65.
Thunderball was.
Thank you.
Yep.
No, we got it. I knew
Yeah.
I knew Kat was going to get it like a flashcard.
Okay.
Edge of Time.
Next.
Edge of Time says at least there is motivation for villain telling plans. That's true. It's not just monologuing. Bunyan Snipe says no wonder McClory was always pissed off. Spectre was his creation.
Yes,
yeah. Oh, we're going to talk about Kevin McClory in a bit. Metal on metal. This is better. We've got two. What's better than one metal? Bunyan Snipe says
referring to when we were talking about the metal hands trying to grab onto the metal platform. The metal on metal.
I got both entendres. Bunyan Snipe says he clearly did that hair trick way too often. Hey, people kept busting into his stuff. The closets were always being violated. 2. Moore is just playing the saint. Well, no, it's kind of weird when we get to Live and Let Die and how he is playing Connery.
I've never I've seen little clips of it, but I haven't actually watched a full episode.
I've seen a couple of episodes of it, and I find him he's not as hard. He's too charming. He's not James Bond. He's a gentleman thief as opposed to being a hitman. Bunyan Snipe says Lewis Collins was in 1981.
That's right, 1981. When they're shopping, okay.
Ooh, thank you, Richard. Enjoying this episode? Check out our website for more Fantasmagorium, including new merch and the entire library of our shows on audio the audio podcasts are available there as well. The Phantasmagorian Show main site, https /
You don't have to do that.
I know. It's phantasmagoriumshow.com.
We will eventually we'll get this show on an audio only podcast version.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. I did that as like a Pavlovian response to what we say on the other one.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Bunyan Snipe says cheaper than Moonraker.
What?
Like
I said, they had adapted the book version of Moonraker. That they probably would have been able to afford it, but they, for whatever reason, they were circling the few of them, and they're like, let Dr. No, because I guess Jamaica was also, I guess, a cheaper filming location because all of the interiors of Dr. No's Lair and all that stuff was shot at Pinewood, and then to shoot at the beaches and a couple of resorts was a bit easier. And I guess because of also Moonraker, you got to find the big rocket base and all that. Because even at Dr. No's Lair, you don't actually get to. They don't cut away to like Cape Canaveral for you to actually get to see what they're trying to do. You just see like a little TV screen of it, and all of that big extravagant set was built indoors. Whereas I imagine the Moonraker set, for given the plot, would be a bit bigger of a set plot of the book. That is true. Yeah, I could see that argument as well.
Well, and also Moonraker's a bit of if they had done a true adaptation, it's a slower movie than Dr. No.
True.
They play bridge. Anyway, Bunyan Snipe says Moonraker is all based in London in the southeast of England. Absolutely. And also not as an exotic locale in terms of I know Bunyan Snipe wants to see a true adaptation of Moonraker. I know he wants to see it. We all do. But I think that to start off, it would have been cheaper to make Moonraker, and I don't think it would have had the same impact as Dr. No did, just based on the sunny locale. You know what you get to do in a warm climate? Chicks wear less. So anyway, the Richard says, don't forget to like and subscribe. Want to support? Tip and comment here at
awesome.
There you go. The link is in the chat. Bunyan Snipe smiles. Fair
Last
enough.
one.
That's it.
That's it for today.
All right. Well, then I suppose, Kat, do you have anything else that you would like to add on Dr. No? Any final thoughts? Favorite song?
I actually really liked, even though they didn't have a song, they had their like opening title graphics with the, all the little dots there. I got my Dr. No watch.
Nice.
All over the screen. And those were kind of, I kind of thought that was neat. Then technically you could say that Three Blind Mice is the first ever Bond song, even if it's not original to the film. But yeah, great movie. the few little things that don't age well aside, I think it's still a solid, entertaining movie to watch. I love it, and of course Joseph Wiseman set the standard.
Absolutely, and I think that it is the template, and I look forward to when James Bond will return in Thunderball. And you want to talk about this next week, same Bond time?
Well, he will return in From Russia with Love, which is the second.
Damn it!
Right.
film.
Sorry, I'm looking at the thing. I'm looking at the picture of Thunderball. I swear to God, guys, I've seen these movies.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
From Russia with Love.
From Russia with Love. It's true. Don't worry. Sometimes the James Bond movies even get the James Bond movies out of order.
Right.
Anyways.
we will be back Wednesday, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Great show, guys. This was really fun. Hopefully everybody enjoyed themselves, and looked like the chat was pretty lively. We'll do it again next week, and until then, for Catherine and Scotty R37, I am Steve Foley. Have a great night, everybody.
See you.